invited our guest speakers to share their expertise, their experience, their opinions, and their thought-provoking insights into the future of fashion. By doing so, highlighting to us all the incredible opportunities the fashion industry has to offer as both a dynamic industry and a global community. Without further ado, I would like to welcome onto the stage His Excellency.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته، ومرحبا بكم ضيوفنا الكرام في هذا الحدث الذي يجسد اهتمام وزارة الثقافة بتطوير قطاع الأزياء وجعل المملكة العربية السعودية وجهة دولية مؤثرة في هذا المجال الإبداعي. إن تطور صناعة الأزياء لا بد أن يكون نتاج حوار ثقافي مشترك بين دول العالم، وهذا سبب وجودنا هنا اليوم، حيث سنبحث وإياكم آفاق المستقبل صناعة الأزياء. ونظرا لوجود ضيوف أعزاء من مختلف دول العالم، فأنا نستأذنكم في إكمال كلمتي باللغة الإنجليزية.
Inspire us and our young creatives to engage, produce, and develop their own ways to impact the future of the industry here and around the world. What is fashion in Saudi? Fashion is not new to Saudi Arabia. We have been expressing ourselves through fashion as a part of culture for many centuries. We have created ways to modernize fashion and yet hold on to our traditions and heritage. This is because culture is very important to us, and that is why fashion is under the Ministry of Culture. What we wear every day, how we express ourselves through the way we dress, is ultimately representing culture through fashion. Whether it's modern or traditional, how every person dresses every day is a reflection of how they feel and what they want to express. It is who we are, it is our identity. Why Fashion Futures now? We are dedicating these 2 days to show our citizens and the world at large how we are considering the future of fashion in Saudi Arabia, how we will hand in hand develop this sector. But what is it that we require in order to do this? We are here today to address this amongst many other questions and create an environment where we are put to work. As the kingdom develops on many fronts, we see a place for the kingdom on the global stage, not least because we are very knowledgeable about the fashion, its culture linked to crafts, tradition, and the importance of heritage. We care about fashion in the context of a changing world, its potential in job, importance of a sustainability within the industry, and opportunity creation in the long run. Fashion is part of our everyday life. It is a language by which we can communicate and build bridges of understanding within the world. Students of the future, we are especially pleased to have them here with us today. Them and so many other young talented people and students who are persistent and ambitious to make their dreams come true, and are extremely proud that fashion has a home inside the Ministry of Culture, which will address this important sector. As someone who has come from the private sector, this is an idea becoming a reality. Our industry is being valued, our dreams will have an ecosystem where they can work together, we can identify the industry's potential and grow it. The future of fashion starts here today.
I'd now like to invite the first of our speakers up on stage. As you all probably know, LVMH is the world's largest luxury group, owning and steering the future of fashion brands such as Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Celine, Fendi, and Givenchy, to name just a few. Ravi Thakran is a group president of LVMH for South Asia, Southeast Asia, Australia, and the Middle East. Please welcome Ravi Thakran.
Friends, you know, in the history of every nation, there always comes a point that acts as a pivot to a golden future going forward. For Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the point is here and now. Kudos, super kudos to the leadership of this nation, first of all to build this incredible vision, and now working with revolutionary zeal to deliver on it with full gusto. We at LVMH really stand with you and will want to work hand in hand to deliver on the promise that Minister of Culture just mentioned. Whether it is to help the entrepreneurs here, to help the young designers from here, to welcome some of them and young students to come work with us for mid-term, long-term internships, all kind of aspects will be very much looking forward to welcoming Saudi Arabia to our world. Now, the world of LVMH, we are, as it was mentioned, world leader in luxury and fashion. But this has been not a very long journey. We are a very young company. Just 30 plus years ago, we started the journey when we bought Christian Dior for 1 French franc. It was a bankrupt company at that time. Louis Vuitton was a very small company at that time. Some of these companies have grown 100x in revenue, 150 to 200x in profits. Our group is all famous for building brand. Let me show you why and what makes this happen.
People often put a box around fashion, put a box around science or architecture, and I really feel that all of these disciplines can learn from each other, and they really should interact more. So within my work, I collaborate a lot with these fields, and strangely enough, the knowledge and craftsmanship can really inspire a scientist, and the other way around. Like the work of a scientist can really inspire the way I look at the material. So within a collection development, it's always really the starting point to start collaborating and to break open the field of fashion. I think there are still big gaps between the disciplines.
Clothing and also reissues of fashion clothing. And David Owen, the founder of IDEA, which began as a vintage
bookseller in the creative industries and has evolved. So first, I'd like to start with Jill. If you can, Jill, just describe how you started, just a little bit about your business, and then we'll show the video.
Okay. So it's probably helpful to put it in a bit of context very briefly. I used to work as a consultant for lots of fashion brands at a very sort of high luxury level, and then also at a very commercial level. And over the years, to be honest, I just got frustrated with how banal the conversations were. And you know, a luxury brand was saying the same thing as the very commercial high street brand. Yeah. And I just got tired of how banal and meaningless it was, and coupled with the fact that I was frustrated about the amount of waste that the fashion industry and culture in general was creating in the world. And literally someone said to me, well, stop complaining about it. What else can you do? And I said, well, I'd really like to do what Baroness has now become. And they said, well, what's stopping you? And I didn't have an answer. So I literally just kind of packed in my job and did it.
Did you ever think you were going to be an entrepreneur? Did you ever think that you had that in you?
Well, I've always worked for startups, but always someone else's startup. So I think I got the bug quite early on. So probably my career has sort of built up to this.
Okay. Maybe we can watch a video. Talk a little bit about IDEA and how it started and why you started it, and then we'll take a look at your video too.
Okay, so when I was, before I went to university, which is a very long time ago, I would see things for sale, like vintage goods, design things, books, clothes, anything, and think that they were undervalued and worth more, and not really have an outlet for that and what to do with it. Yeah. And then very early on, I met my partner and now wife, Angela, and when we moved in together, we each had some overlap in the books that we bought. And so we had bookshelves with multiple copies, 2 of this, 2 of that, 2 whatever. And Sarah from Colette visited our apartment where we were living. She knew someone there, and she saw them and was like, oh, you could sell some books if you want in my new store. It's going to be called Colette. And we knew nothing about it, but we're like, okay, so we'll do this. And luckily for us, Colette turned out to be, in a very short space of time, possibly the best shop in the world. And we were in it. And then we were invited by Sarah to meet with Dover Street Market, and then we were in Dover Street Market, which has also been called the best store in the world. So that was a fine kind of running start to how to do it.
Us to see the video.
years ago. Some people refer to us as creative technologists. It's something I can understand because a lot of the work that Helishan does is to try and explore that intersection where science and technology meets art and culture. It's a space where fashion fits really, really well, a space of exploration and understanding and looking for new materials and new methodologies and new ways of doing things. And actually the Times, a UK newspaper a couple of years ago, described Helishan as what would happen if Willy Wonka built technology. And again, I think they're trying to be complimentary. I've certainly chosen to take it as such. But we're also a practice-based consultancy, because a lot of the work that we do is trying to think not about technology, but about the future relationship between humans and technology. That how will they correlate in a world in 10, 20, or 30 years' time? And if we can understand that relationship, then we can bring that back to today and try and talk to brands about what that means in terms of their they've acquired it over 100 years, and they felt that that sort of very eccentric way of working has been absolutely fine for the way that they've been selling cars over the last 100 years, but it doesn't work in a new world where lots of shops have got to be technologically savvy, beautifully made, and very similar around different parts of the world. So one of the parts to this, and one of the reasons why they spoke to us, is that they want to put a whole series of new types of content into their stores, but they want to move away from being an engineering firm that constantly talks about the size of the engine, the acceleration, and the quality of the leather, and they want to move more into an art space where they can communicate more the ethos of driving a Rolls Royce. So we came up with a series of films. This is one of them. None of this is CGI, it's all filmed. That's the Spirit of Ecstasy that sits on top of the Rolls Royce, underwater, shooting acrylic colours, inks and paints and pastels through jets and through hypodermic syringes, and just filming it in slow motion and seeing what patination and what colours emerge. And the stores that this is going in, they have double-height storefront windows, and the screens, therefore, are 40 to 50 metres tall and about 100 metres wide, so they're absolutely enormous. And I've got a very short film of one of them being shown at a trade show, at a consumer racing show called Goodwood, which is here, and you can start to get a sense of how it works in relationship to the cars. We're now doing a new version of this where the colours and the movement are all being driven not by analogue means of firing colour at Spirit of Ecstasy, but programmatically. In the Goodwood factory, Rolls-Royce tracks the assembly of every single car, and now it's the assembly that's driving this. So the different colours, the different models, the different personalisations, they're all generating data, and data will be driving that forward. We do a lot of work with in visual merchandising and store windows. This is another series of projects we did for Hermes, the French luxury brand. Last Christmas, they wanted 10 different windows in 10 different stores in 10 different countries, all over the world. Everything had to have a little piece of technology in it. Hermes had never used technology in a physical retail space ever. This is Bond Street, but I'll show you this one, which is Ginza in Turkey. Here is a little miniature doll's house with little miniature Hermes products in. And on the right is the full-size doll's house, what you would see inside, but full-size. And as you peer in on the left, your face is now a giant peering in on the other side. So very simple technology, but it's storytelling and it's playful, and it's very much in the Hermes brand involved. This is a pop-up. These are a series of creative work we did for Louis Vuitton as they started to work with Virgil Abloh on pop-ups in New York and in London. If you go down to Bond Street now and you look at Louis Vuitton, you'll have seen that it's entirely covered in multicolour, rainbow, technicolor sort of sculptures, colours absolutely where Louis Vuitton is. And this was one of the first iterations of that. Virgil Abloh was absolutely passionate about colour. And as he was talking, I had a very strong sort of remembering back to when I was 6 years old or 7 years old, watching television with my family, and in The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy opens the door and black and white becomes colour. So this is our reincarnation of the yellow brick road, with colour beams that track people as as they walk up and down and push you into a sort of eternal tunnel of colour. And at the end of it is not the Emerald City, but a reimagined version of the ubiquitous Louis Vuitton trunk in colour and neon. We also do a fashion show most years. This is one we did for the British luxury brand Dunhill. What you see here is 64 real models wearing the Dunhill clothes. And there are 500 people, looking at them, and there's another 500 people behind them looking at you, so they're caught between 1,000 people. And the video starts dark, but it gets brighter. So what you'll see here is 2 huge holograms. They were the largest holograms delivered at that point. Each hologram is 28 meters long and 10 meters tall. There's a hologram for each of the 2 audiences. And for a piece of creative direction, the aim was to try and tone down the fashion show. Instead of a pulsing beat, it was meant to be a very gentle experience, much more gentle than the music that Dunhill's put on this video here. There was some very classic English violin music, and there was a very, very sad and mournful piece of Chinese traditional folk music, all played live. And the aim was to try and drop a little piece of England into the heart of Shanghai by going through the seasons. The quality of the video was just huge and complicated, far more complicated than a Pixar animation, because in Pixar, you're sitting in the seat, you never get too close to the screen. But Dunhill wanted people to be able to walk up and see every single blade of grass, every line and vein in every leaf. So we were able to deliver something like 12 or 13 seconds of animation every single day, and the entire film is 16 minutes, so we were absolutely hard up against it. But probably my favourite part of this show actually came at the end of the show, when the lights went out and the lights came up and people were asked to get up off their chairs and walk up onto the stage, so they could then see the craftsmanship and the materiality and the quality of the fabric. And so we tried to reduce that barrier between the people viewing the fashion show and the people on the fashion show by trying to get the two to work together. I want to talk a little bit about data. Data is now at the heart of everything that we do, although we try and use data creatively. And the first of these projects I want to show you is for an English startup called List, which you may or may not have heard of. They were very big in America, they're now pushing into Europe. List is a platform, but they're like Net-a-Porter and ASOS in that they are an online e-commerce fashion player. But they're also like Uber, which, as you know, is the world's largest taxi company that owns no taxis, or Facebook, the world's largest content company that makes no content, or Airbnb, the world's largest real estate company but owns no real estate. List own no product. They're a platform for other brands to sell from. But all of these other brands have to do all of their own housekeeping on the List website.
Of Amlani Group Consulting, as well as the panel's moderator, Shukran.
So our panel is called The Medium is the Message, and it's really about how communications has changed due to social media and the digital changes to digital communications. So we have with us Olivier Borges, who is the founder of OBCM. We have Will Beadle, who is the creative director of All Saints and also the founder of Jordan Ski Club, and Rahim Amlani, the founder of Riyadhseason. I want to start with you, Olivier, because you've been in the fashion industry.
Also really believe in the future of couture.
A lot of the work that we do is trying to think not about technology, but about the future relationship between humans and technology.
Be wide open, be curious, never stop learning, never stop expanding your field of vision. That's why I accepted this invitation to Riyadh. I wanted to see for myself what Saudi Arabia looked like, what it was about, and have a new experience and bring back something new to my work.
Welcome to Planet Fashion. This presentation will bring you on a journey of evolution to experience futuristic contemporaneity. Over 80 looks styled by industry professionals, combining Saudi and international brands with the aim to inspire and pave the road to the
global fashion industry.
Thank you all for coming. يعطيكم العافية ونشوفكم على خير.
To open this extraordinary event today with Fashion Futures, we open a new chapter for the fashion industry in our country. Fashion Futures is not just a fashion event. It is the first platform of its kind designed to give voices to emerging local talent to express and showcase themselves.
We all have dreams and are gathered here to explore and craft ways to make them a reality. The future of fashion starts here today.
You know, in the history of every nation, there always comes a point that acts as a pivot to a golden.
Saudi Arabia has the opportunity today to tell the story of the future of fashion. And what is the future of fashion? You can live anywhere. You could be in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and you could still lead in a fashion industry. You can innovate, you can design, you can reach out, but what did Iris do?
Places ecology as the key driver for any project. So we ask, how do we design for nature, not against it?
I know who the client is.
You find your signature and you just go with it. And that's very important, rather than copying and looking at everybody else.
The most important thing is to start with the purpose and the honest message you want to give.
The creative needs to be able to create, and the business people need to be able to do their business.
Lots of questions about how do you market your brand? Once you market it, where should you put it?
Well, the creation of the sporty abaya gives the freedom.
Do what you think is good. Don't look at others saying who is going to make change your mind. Go for what you like. Love you all. I'm very, very, very touched by this country, by all the people and everything that I've seen.
Thank you, ladies.
Wow!
And thank you for being here. Your presence is beautiful. Thank you.
Being the first is never easy. As young people, we have the power of changing the world.
The Ministry of Culture and all of us who work in government to serve you, to say, tell us who you are, come and join our journey, learn from our guests, and be the future. Be the future not just of fashion. Be the future of the face of this country, share this vision, and write your own. Thank you.